So how do you grow deep relationships with your freelancers? We all know that we're not just a bunch of individuals, and our freelancers generally are collaborating with more than 5 freelancers at one time. We need to team up. We need to refer work back and forth. We need to grow together. One of our freelancers had the best analogy in terms of what their freelance team / collective is like. And the analogy was when you would be in an office, you would go to the office party, and maybe there were, say, 500 colleagues there, but 5 to 15 of you, maybe 20 of you would grab the wine, grab the cheese, and head back to a clubhouse and hang out. And now as a freelancer, you have that 15 to 20 fellow collaborators that you love working with. But how do you do this? Right now, it's really, really hard. You can have a Slack group. You can communicate through WhatsApp. You might all have your own Google Drives. You might all have your own Asanas or your own Trellos. You might try to use one, but it's really, really a nightmare. And so in this, we're going to talk about how do you actually build deep relationships with your freelancers, form these collectives, go team up, and go crush work. And so the answer really comes down to 2 things. The first is you have to know them deeply. And the second is you have to make it as easy as possible to work with you. So I'm going to screen share and just show you how we make that happen. So if you can see my screen right now. All right, so in terms of how to know your freelancers better, to be honest, better than they know themselves, this is where we do have a quick freelance relationship manager. What's important here, though, is being able to have hyper relevant tags. And so for me, I can come in here and I can say, okay, who's involved with crypto? Ricardo's the crazy one. I can say, who are my writers? And I can sort of see, okay, here are the writers that I have on my talent cloud. And then the second thing is being able to take real notes. And so this, very intentionally, this is not a LinkedIn. This is a one-sided relationship. So these notes, only I know. So one thing I always do when I meet fellow freelancers that I think I want to work with, I always ask them what their favorite animal is, or I ask for a fun fact. And I make sure that note is here. So every time we talk, we're sort of going down the rabbit hole of what they like. Sometimes freelancers are into crypto. Sometimes freelancers, they do a photography shoot for a nice mansion in Europe. But so whatever it is, right? Something that's unique, something that's helpful. So making it as easy as possible to get to know those people. Up and coming is, as you can see down here, I'll show you, is past projects. So you will have the data every single time you work together. So after, say, 2 years, you're going to have a crazy rich data set if we did 50 projects together, we crushed it on this, didn't do so well here. So that's one factor. The second factor, though, is making it as easy as possible to work with you, which comes down to slashing the friction required for collaboration, which collaboration is generally communication / context to know what to do. Then generally the file sharing of working in the right space. And third, generally the iteration and the feedback process to get to the right deliverable. So in terms of setting up a project with no friction, the first thing we can do is we can copy past projects. So let me come here and say, okay, I was doing John Deere before, but let's say we're doing Kubota. So I come in here, put a newsletter. There could be advanced options. So what this is going to mean, and this is where we can search for a client, and if it's Kubota, there's going to be some files, there's going to be context there, but also a big thing is the files. We all know how much a nightmare is when we're sending each other files back and forth, but then we forgot to request access. We're in the middle of a date. We get a ping saying this person's requesting access. You answer it. It's a lose-lose because now your date's pissed and the freelancer's pissed that you waited so long. So I come in here and I'm going to show you a specific type of file that I use in relation to making sure freelancers know me and we've reduced the friction. So I come here, I add this project, and we'll see that everything comes up in one. So what I want to show you next is related to reducing the friction. Just like you want to know your freelancers, enable your freelancers to know you. And so there's sort of 4 files that I kind of swear by. And so if I go to my knowledge hubs, the sort of four files are, the number 1 is you're going to have this working with Matthew PowerPoint. And by the way, we know the tools you're going to be using are going to be all over the place. Clients want to use G Drive, maybe they're in Microsoft Teams, Dropbox, you name it. And so you use the files that you already have. So I have a very simple sort of working with Matthew document. I describe a little bit about myself, the pros, the cons. So I have this. The second thing is I have a consistent feedback form. And so at any time, freelancers can fill out feedback saying, I was awful to work with, I was great to work with. And so, this is the collab opportunities one. So that's the next one you'll see. So this is feedback. completely anonymous. They can add their name if they want. The third thing that I do is a collaboration opportunities form. And so what I want to do here is I want to make sure that my freelancers know I want to work with you. And so a lot of times freelancers come to us saying, hey, we think you should do this, or they come to me saying, hey, we should do this. And it's a really organic process of sort of going up the value chain of ways we can work together. And then the third document is one of the sort of values that I have with my freelancers is we all have our black box of people we love to work with. And so this is just an intro me to form where it's super easy that I can, set up the interest between people that would like to meet each other. Maybe someone says, Matt, designer or a developer. So at sort of a high level summary, having a deep relationship with your freelancers comes down into knowing them in a very, very deep way, specifically what's unique about them, always knowing a fun fact, knowing where they went to school, yada, yada, yada. And then the second thing is making it as easy as possible to work with you. So slashing all the friction when it comes to having the context of a project. One thing we didn't talk about was tasks, but so reducing all the friction to work together. Second thing is within the file sharing. And then the third thing is, if you want to copy it, feel free. I'm happy to send you all the templates. But so I do have a, working with me document of the pros, the cons, things that I like, things that I don't like, how I like to receive feedback, yada, yada, yada. I also have an anonymous feedback form. You all probably have great ones too, so I would love to sort of collab there. But so at a high level, that's how you form a really, really deep relationship with your fellow freelancers.